ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Patreon bonus time is here. That's right, we're talking about Black Roses as a listener request on Kill by Kill's exclusive Patreon feed. My name's Patrick Hamilton, and I'm just a guy who wants to watch some rock and roll, goddammit. And if I have to go to my local high school gym auditorium to see it, that's where I'm going to go. And there's only one person I trust, is that if I turn into a demon, she'll kick me in the nards to defeat me. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I really, really hope that our children bow to us, our soldiers of death, our garden of evil.
Soldiers of the night.
I'm just gonna start calling. I want to start calling our listeners our garden of evil.
If we just start doing that and never explain it on the main feed, we're going to freak out so many people.
Hello, soldiers of death.
My garden of evil, worship me. And if I never lower my arms, why is it his big move? the lead singer of Black Roses, his big move is to just raise his arms in a Christ-like pose.
He's doing a little bit of like, bring it on in, come on,
come on.
When you're trying to
gather up,
right? Or you're trying to entice somebody to give you a hug, like come on, a little closer, come on, yeah.
Yes, it is. We're warring. The children of Mill Basin are torn between two influences. One is a very sexy heavy metal singer who's not wearing one but two wigs. Two wigs. He has an interim wig and a show wig, and then you have a mustachioed doofus who wears the bulkiest clothes he can. I assume because the median temperature of Mill Basin is 43 degrees, and he is ostensibly the hero here, but he doesn't really ever feel heroic. I mean, and his big plan at the end, spoiler alert, we're not going through the plot of this movie. The movie has no plot. But at the end, his big solution to this problem is, I'm going to sneak into an auditorium where everyone is going to be looking at me because I'm going to approach the stage. And then I'm just going to splash some gasoline on the corner. Like this. That's his plan, Gina.
Just get some flares at the local gas station. I honestly thought he was buying sticks of dynamite. I was like, wow.
That's what I thought too.
I thought
has everything. Was going for dynamite. Personally, I would go for dynamite, but I guess maybe dynamite isn't available at the local Texaco up in Canada, because this movie supposedly takes place in New York State, but it is achingly Canadian, to the point in which when you go to the parent group, they have both American and a Canadian flag at the front of it, which kind of undoes the whole American satanic panic undertones that the film is going for.
Yeah, it's a very, 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 very upstate New York. like upstate, you might be able to stand like with 1 foot in the U.S. and 1 foot in Canada.
I think it's so upstate, it's Ontario. It's just, it's beyond. I was filmed in Canada, so any pretense that this is America is basically just crossing their fingers and hoping you believe the lie. I was, what is your relationship with Troma? Because I'm listen, I love the idea, but I've never really enjoyed the actual Troma aesthetic.
I thought the Toxic Avenger was fine. I thought it was pretty funny. And every other Troma movie, honestly, my attitude has been, all right, I get it. Right. I did see, I went to a screening of Romeo and Juliet and which started my well-known at this point, very strong dislike for actors neglecting to remove their socks before a sex scene.
Sure. If anything's going to do it, that's going to do it.
Yeah, and I don't think I've ever, saw a Troma movie and thought I'd like to watch that again sometime.
Yeah, I agree. Like I really wanted to love Surf Nazis Must Die because, I live, not super close, but like if I travel a half an hour from here, I'm going to hit Huntington Beach. And that literally is the place where Surf Nazis Must Die. And it's not a good movie, but it's also not a great bad movie. It lives in this zone where you're not entirely sure if you're supposed to take it seriously or it's really supposed to be a comedy. Now, everyone in this film is taking the premise very seriously, but at no point is the film serious. The thing that it reminded me the most of, and this is a real diss to Black Roses, sadly, is Hobgoblins.
Well, the funny thing is I did a little bit of backstory because I'd heard of this movie, but this was the first time watch for me. I had never seen it before. It is made predominantly by the same people who made Rock and Roll Nightmare, which is a big favorite of mid-period Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Sure, yeah.
But it's, as a review of this pointed out, they take very opposite approaches to it's a similar storyline. They take opposite approaches in which the rock and roll metal guy in Rock and Roll Nightmare is almost kind of like an angel. Like he's the good guy.
Yeah, it's the crow. It's the crow.
Right. And here it's just a straight take on the whole satanic panic of the 80s, which is actually why I ended up, it's not a good movie. It's charmingly bad, but and it made me weirdly sentimental for the first wave of satanic panic. Now because it's all tied in with like with QAnon and stuff like that, it's not funny anymore.
Yeah.
It's
not cool anymore.
Right. It's not funny. And you have the feeling that people are going to end up getting killed over it, which is, pretty scary and depressing. Whereas, back in the 80s, I mean, obviously, the whole McMartin preschool thing aside, which was just a farce and a tragedy on its own. It was more silly than anything else, that anybody took Motley Crue as, opening up a doorway to worshiping the devil.
Yeah. Well, I think people were just looking for something fun. There's got to be something to this beyond just people dressing up in very high hair and going so vaguely satanic things. And it's just like, all they're trying to do is like push you. They found something like we don't have the Queen here to hate on for punk rock music. So like, all right, if we take it heavier in terms of the American, jock rock and lace in dark satanic underpinnings to it all, we'll get a rise out of people. And that's fucking it, man. Like, but this film then transposes that satanic panic to puppets. There's a lot of puppet work here going on, Gina. And when in the middle of the second concert, when the guy's like, "You're my army of the night," and it flips to the audience and they turn into desiccated skeleton people, I laughed out loud. Like the laugh that I erupted with literally woke the dog.
Well, don't forget the scene where one of the kids' fathers, played by Big Pussy Popanzero from The Sopranos. If you laughed out loud, I was like, "What, Big Pussy?" and it was
Baby Big Pussy. Yeah. It was. And he is newest. Like it just hatched out of an egg.
Yeah, he's pussy. Yeah, and he gets eaten by a stereo speaker, which is pretty great. I'm not gonna lie.
In a drawn out sequence in which he forgets how to walk. He's so stunned by what he's seeing, this bug that emerges from a speaker, from a record, by the way, that's not even the Black Roses. It's another group all entirely. I don't know if you're meant to know that, or they just chose it because obviously they didn't press a fucking Black Roses record. Yeah. It's just the miracle of, a higher resolution HD. But the stereo won't turn off. And finally, it turns into an alien. I think they were going for Alien. What's going on here? Because they have enough budget to kind of dress that speaker up in a couple goopy cables. And they're like, it probably should be bigger than that. Like, oh, we don't have that kind of money. We spend it all on the puppet. And then the puppet emerges, and it's a cool looking puppet, but you see a lot of it. Like, this is they bathe every light they have on it. So they're not doing themselves a lot of favors hiding the weaning on this being
and
a
you
puppet.
could see, and you could like, in order to not have to bother covering the cable that's operating it, they just covered the cable in slime. And I guess you're like, well, people think that's part of its body or something. It's like, no, I can see that. You can see that that's how they're moving it around.
And you can literally at times see, how the arm is through the puppet and it's manipulating the mouth, and he struggles against this thing. The arms of the bug are really touching the ground half the time. Big Pussy, probably in the prime of his life, shouldn't be in a tight white t-shirt, but we get to see that anyways. And he gets his face bitten off, and then he's dragged through that speaker. And you're like, okay. You're going for something. You're not letting the lack of budget or plot or concept get in the way. You're just going to present your ideas, and you have to accept them as is.
Well,
and
I
think this.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is a group watch sort of thing. I don't think it's really something meant to watch alone. You can enjoy it alone, but this is best enjoyed with a large group of people who you can make fun of it as it goes, because otherwise you're kind of left with your thoughts.
Yeah. And they're definitely trying a bunch of different things. First and foremost, there's I don't know if parodying would be quite the word I would use for it. It's a take on Satanic Panic. It's also kind of starts out as almost like a sort of nod at Footloose, in which you have this very uptight town that doesn't want the rock and roll music playing there, even though it's like, I don't know, what is this, 1987 maybe this movie came out.
88 for Christ's sake.
Yeah, it looks like 83, but
well, it's Canada. They're lagging at this point in time.
And it's got like a lot of it feels like they filmed it and then felt they needed to add in some stuff later, like a couple boob shots. It's the boob shots in this crack me up because they're very obviously the boobs in question don't belong to the actress that they're trying to make you think it is. So they shoot everything from the neck down.
and they never cut away, like intercut those things. So you're just left with a shot for a full minute of someone massaging their breasts. And you're like, okay, I believe this individual has breasts, but it's like, hold on. Wait till you see the next 30 seconds of them massaging their breasts.
Yeah, and then they very carefully show the top she pulls back up. So when you cut to the next scene and you see the actress fully dressed and she's wearing that top, the audience is like, "Oh my God, that's her boobs!" And it's like, no, that was a stand-in boobs. Because the scene later where she is possessed or whatever, and she's trying to seduce her stepfather with the intent of killing him. She once again takes her blouse off. Then it cuts away and cuts back to again a only from the neck down shot of bare breasts. Because that actress was very, very determined. I am not going to show my boobs in this thing. It's like, yeah, we're going to get boobs in there somehow.
Yeah, and it is her right. Yeah, we
of
demand
course. It's
that
just,
she specifically.
Right. It's so clumsily
but they do
done.
nothing to make the illusion come to life. They just like her face, shot of boobs, 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 back to face. You're like, there's some intercutting be involved, but I think this movie has an invisible stage manager off to the side, just going stretch.
Oh yeah,
stretch, because it's barely 80 minutes, and again,
it's
not complaining.
It's got about 40 minutes of plot stretched out to 80 minutes, and it's weird because they drop in a lot of stuff. Like they drop in this weird. It barely ranks a subplot with this teacher having once had a relationship with a woman who's now dating with the man, living with the mayor who she calls daddy.
Oh no, it's the mayor's daughter. It's the mayor's daughter.
I thought that was her boyfriend. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I missed that part.
No,
but when a 40-year-old woman is calling an older man daddy, I don't think.
Yeah, sure.
My immediate thought doesn't go to that's her actual literal father.
Right.
But
I agree with you.
But she's like this villainous person who broke up with him because he's a teacher. What kind of job is that? You could be an accountant. Instead of being a teacher with your little students and their little
really
problems.
Do something.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It was a teacher, not a respectable job. I mean,
Mill Basin is not exactly a hub of industry. There appears to be 3 stores, and every time they're outside, the streets are empty. And it's not because this production shut down the street. They just chose a suburb that is so devoid of life that they could just spin out in the middle of the street or hit a rubber trash can with a car and no one will notice because everyone's like, it's 7:30. I'm going inside. That's really the vibe you get from this location.
Go ahead.
Sure. Let's talk about what now?
Oh, I wanted to talk about this band and their imagery and how funny it is, and like how the parents are supposed to be scared of that. Patrick, this movie is near dear to both our hearts. They look like fucking Spinal Tap.
Yes.
You've got like everybody's got the Party City, heavy metal rocker wigs on.
Yes.
They've got the kind of half bondage gear, half spandex costumes. The lead singer, his name Damien Teehee.
Yes. Very subtle.
But their band logo is a badly drawn skull with a rose in its mouth. It kind of looks like who was that awful ventriloquist who has the Islamophobic dummy? It's called
sure,
yeah,
yes.
You know who I'm talking about. It kind of looks like that. Who is that guy? Jeff something. Jeff Dunham.
Jeff Dunham.
Yeah,
Jeff Dunham.
Right.
Jesus.
The skull kind of looks like that puppet. He's kind of got almost like googly
which wouldn't be out
eyes
of place with this movie's love of puppets.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a very meaningful moment where this kid is drawing this on the back of a denim vest, and he's looking very intent at it. And the parents are like, "Look at this logo, and you tell me these people aren't working for the devil."
Yes. Meanwhile, it looks like somebody tried for the Suicidal Tendencies logo and failed.
Yeah,
I know they're like.
Go ahead.
No, please.
No, I can't remember what I was going to say.
This is the trouble with starting this early. They're going for that Iron Maiden Eddie sort of thing.
Yes.
I feel like, which is the only genuine I think that's like one of the few like real mascots of a heavy metal band. Everyone else kind of like they saw that and like tried to compete, but you really can't. Like Iron Maiden just owns that whole thing. Like I don't know a ton of Iron Maiden songs, but if I see a picture of Eddie, I know that's Iron Maiden, no matter what getup they dress him up in. But here, when he's making that design on the back of his very store-bought Levi's denim vest jacket, he's doing it with that white glue that you get at Michael's.
Yes, it's craft glue.
Oh, it's your art project.
And you got the very scary music and all, and he just looked at like he's doing the devil's work with his tulip puppy paints.
And this like you can't make me scared that this is even though you start this movie with them like being monsters on stage, which has got to be hard to rock under all that latex. Like that is a real tough gig under those lights.
GWAR has managed for like 40 years.
They really committed to the bit. But you can see the genius of GWAR when you see this crew up on stage for that opening in New York City. By the way, if you destroy an entire theater in New York City with a bunch of people in it, it's going to hit the papers. Like that's going to be talked about on the nightly news that a Black Roses concert ended up like being destroyed. But somehow, I guess Satan's a great publicity agent because they're able to quash that and they move on to Mill Basin.
Yeah, but then at the end they're going back to New York and then they're playing Madison Square Garden.
Yes. But why has none of this gotten out? Like they were in a high school that caught on fire. Like Great White, whenever you see them, they're still trailed by the fact that one of their concerts caught on fire. Like that's a thing that happened. So I find it a stretch of the imagination.
Well, it's not just that the high school caught on fire. It's like, okay, once these kids have snapped out of whatever trance they've been put into by either listening to the music or the band, working some sort of mind control on them. Several of them have murdered their parents by this point.
Yes.
So like, are they just, like there's no follow up on, what happens when this is discovered or anything like that. It just sort of ends.
Yeah. I was delighted by the idea that Johnny, the kid who's decorating the back of his denim vest, his father is
the kid.
This kid, this 31-year-old kid, his father, who is maybe 10 to 15 years older than him, his father is addicted to newspapers. He's addicted. He can't give up newspapers. It's the thing he has to have in his hand. This is how you know he's a bad parent. Like other parents, use, gay slurs against their children. Stepfathers are trying to sleep with their stepdaughters. This guy's like, can't be bothered to parent you. I need to read the news.
I need to see what's happening on Beetle Bailey.
Like I need to understand what the weather's like in Wisconsin. Like why is his and to the point where he's killed, shot in the head 5 times, which is it's a bit much. Once you shoot someone maybe once or twice in the head, I think you got them. But okay, they had the red jelly juice to spray on the wall, so why not use it? But he shot through the newspaper.
My favorite line in this entire movie is, at the beginning of the parents have their little parents meeting where they're very nervous about the rock and roll music coming to town, and then the mayor turns out to be kind of a cool guy who's like, well, remember
Yeah.
Elvis, and turned out to be no big deal, and it's probably fine. And then he turns to someone, and this is a movie again released in 1988. Turns to someone and says, "Remember the Lindy Hop?" It's like the Lindy Hop, which was popular during the Roaring 20s.
Right. Just remember it. Remember the idea. Remember the concept of the Lindy Hop. I wasn't alive for it, but you remember it. We all remember Lindy Hop.
It's like you're referencing Elvis and the Lindy Hop in the same sentence.
And he points to one guy. He's like, let's not forget the Beatles. Mike, remember when your son grew his hair long like Ringo Starr? Everyone in town wanted to kill him. Like, what? Everyone in town wanted to murder this child because he grew his hair long because of a rock group. And we're like, about it 20 years later. Like, oh, Jesus Christ, what a town. Maybe it needs to be destroyed. And that's the thing. I think, I don't think this is a bad idea. Like, I think you could remake this movie well now with just the concept of this town needs to be destroyed and the agents of chaos that do it is Black Roses. I am kind of a stan for the Stephen King, this small town needs to destroy itself from within genre. Right. I'm going to admit something, Gina, that I'm not proud of. I like the Tommy Knockers. I don't like the miniseries, but I do like the book Tommy Knockers because I just love a town that destroys itself. And this could be that if you wanted to, but it does not have the resources. It does not have the time. And it certainly does not have the wherewithal for plot to give that to people. So we're left with watching Johnny almost paint something red and then run away in a panic. He's like, oh no, I'm going to get caught painting something red. And he runs away so loudly that no idiot on earth would mistake this act of vandalism for anyone else.
Well, it's funny because this whole movie only takes place over a period of maybe 3 days. It's when this band shows up, they just randomly select this tiny little town to play at.
They had it coming. It coming, Gina. Mill Basin has lived high in the hog long enough.
And if they were going to do that, then go for a Stephen King approach to show how kind of rotten at the core of this town is, and that that the presence of this demonic evil brings it all out to the surface. But it's instead it's like, well, this music just sort of puts all the teens in a trance. And they take a big leap from I'm considering committing an act of minor vandalism to I'm going to shoot my father 5 times in the head. There's no gradual decline into that. Like the guy who comes off from the very beginning as a bully, suddenly starts bullying people. It's like that's not a shocking surprise.
Yeah, he professionally wrestles somebody outside of the school. There may be 3 punches thrown, and then he just picks a dude up and tosses him onto the concrete. And you're like, well, that happened. And then the movie moves on. One of my early notes is like, why does Black Roses need 3 days to turn the kids evil? Like, why wouldn't one concert do it? But then you see the big leap from night 1 to night 2, and they're murdering people. And then, our hero sleeps through night 3. And then suddenly there's a night 4. Like, he sleeps through the hero of the piece. It just goes to the library to research evil in general from the local Mill Basin library, and then falls asleep at a table, which I guess the library is open 24 hours a day, or they're like, he comes here all the time to sleep. I'm not sure what the connotation is, or he has a key. Jesus Christ. None of this makes sense. Stop trying to make sense, Hamilton. But then they have a fourth night of the concert just because now they have concerts every night just so that Damien can get on stage and go, worship me, my golden evil.
Also, does this town not have any sort of police presence?
No, we never see any form of police. We see firemen at the end, but no,
because you got the one character, the guy who the guy who just turns him into a professional wrestler, backs into his mom and sends her flying across the street, and he just leaves her there.
Yeah,
evidently, no neighbors discover her, no police come by. She's just laying there in the middle of the street.
Yeah, and like someone later says, it was a hit and run, but how? No one thought to check the car that's in the driveway with the big dent in the back of it, because human bodies do dent cars. They're not invulnerable. They're not kit. So the evidence is sitting right there in the driveway, but I guess they don't have cops. Even Vulcanvania in Nothing But Trouble has cops. This town has nothing.
I love the final concert, and the teens have taken over because they're all wearing Black Roses t-shirts.
Yeah. Now they have merch. That's how you know shit's gone sideways.
Yeah, I think that if you ever on My Neighbors Are Dead Again, your character should be the guy who runs the merch table at the Black Roses concert.
That is such an arcane reference that I almost have to do it.
I'm not quick enough on my feet to do something like that, but I think you should do it.
If I'm ever invited back, considering the level of talent they're now currently getting, which is pretty crazy, the level of people who are appearing on that show now. I don't know how they allowed me to be on it, other than we just became pals. You know what we should do? This is probably an off-air discussion, but I should see if we can get him on for Saw's Giving. Sure. Maybe he's a good Saw's, because we barely talked about Graveyard Shift, and I loved that episode.
Wait, what is there to talk about?
I know.
When you get past like Brad Dourif, what is there to talk about?
That's very true. It's very true. And yet, I think that the one thing that Graveyard Shift has that this film does not is they know how to shoot puppets to make them kind of look gross. And here they just don't have the talent or time to do that. But what they do have is a hero here who will arrive to the theater with a gas can and some flares. And his plan, Gina, is to douse the corner of the stage in some gasoline. That's as far as he's got. This will cure everything. Gasoline on fire. And strangely enough, God damn it, Gina, he's right.
Yeah, I did not think that flames would kill a demon. I would think that demons love flames.
Yeah. He does stand in the flames for a really long time. So and obviously it doesn't kill him because they're going to Madison Square Garden in a month. But it does get them out of Mill Basin, I guess. Oh yeah. Can we talk about the demon puppet that comes to seduce him in the guise of his teacher's pet?
Where it just has a little withered hand for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is really conflicted about whether or not to just have sex with this girl, because there's some part of it takes a lot of kissing for him to realize this is wrong. And then finally, when she's like, oh, what if I just give you a blowjob? He's like, what if I backhand you? And you're like, this is the hero. I'm supposed to like him. I don't want to see him backhand a quote unquote teenager in mid blowjob.
Yeah, no.
That is not what I would necessarily call heroic. Their battle is him punching a puppet head for a really long time, which is to me very reminiscent. The other thing this reminded me of was House.
And I think, yeah, I can see that.
Whereas House very much is a comedy. That's not always aware that it's a comedy, but I think is aiming for a horror comedy thing. This wants to be, I don't know necessarily it wants to be taken seriously, but everyone in it is taking the premise seriously.
They're playing it seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So the laughs are all unintentional, which I guess is where it comes down to charm. What's your charm tolerance? Does this work for you? I'm not sure how he kills that demon, because they can't lower the camera enough to show the chest of the puppet. So you don't know what he stabs it with. You just know he pushed something into the center of it and you're like, it's dead, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like that he was, maybe at some point supposed to be given or acquired like, a blessed dagger or something, and then they forgot to include that scene.
He rented. He got it out of the lending library with all the evil books, and
yeah, it's a weirdly like religious free movie about demons. Like nobody ever brings up using like crosses or like, I would think that if you're trying to fight demons, like, I don't know, splashing holy water all over the stage or something might be more effective than setting it on fire. Because aren't they like born of fire, demons generally?
Sure.
Well, let me ask you something. As a Mormon, when you were growing up, did the Mormon Church get deep in the paint with the whole heavy metal? I mean, I know you weren't probably much of a metal person. I wasn't either, but were you like dragged into like classes or like Sunday school programs and lectured about the dangers of heavy metal music?
Mormonism, for at least in the era in which I grew up with, was rather that you were in the secular world, but you did not have to live of the secular world. Like,
so all of it was bad then.
All of it was in essentially the same level of ungodly. So one might not be any worse than the other. There also wasn't a whole lot of Satan talk as like he's out to, influence you specifically through, your typical 80s satanic panic stuff. Never really, that didn't come up so much, just because it's a different fashion of fundamentalism. It really is focused on the fact they build this up. And if you watch Under the Banner of Heaven, you'll kind of get this impression that there's all this stuff in the world that we just shouldn't be involved with. It's just not, our goal should be to get through this life for the reward after. So spending a bunch of time, eluding how it can tempt you was just a waste of time. Because, all the prophets, had all been, dragged out of a barn to be tarred and feathered. You're like, yeah, but you eventually learned it's because he was trying to fuck a 14-year-old and his wife did. His wife's like, please don't. Jesus. It's hard. You know what? I'm not going to get in the way. You know what? He deserves the tarring and the feathering. Go for it. And then that appears to be a schism in their marriage, as it would. He's like, why didn't you help me in my time of need? And she's like, because you were fucking a 14-year-old in a barn, you asshole. And this is the basis of my religion. It's hard to get back on board with that shit. I'm glad millennials and Gen Z have deconstructing as their sort of raison d'etre now about religion. And I don't believe religion is inherently terrible, but that's a long-winded explanation of I honestly, there weren't a ton of metal hits. Like as weird as it was, there were some guys who were all older than me because I was in this gap of 2 years on either side of me where there were no boys. There were just girls and me stab in the middle. So for whatever reason, I just was able to observe, groups of boys. I wasn't a part of any of them. And the older kids would like get high and watch The Wall. And you're like, okay, well, that's standard fucking shit. Like, you're not cool.
Yeah,
I know that much. I'm not going to mistake this for something I want to do. And the younger kids had just thought I was a fucking idiot because I probably was. And so I didn't have to compete for masculinity necessarily within the realm, which I think is why I was a little weirdo. I was just a little weirdo that no one particularly liked. But yeah, we never were gathered in the, where the basketball hoop is to rap about Satanism.
You never had anybody put the chair the wrong way and sit down, exactly. Which means he was going to be straight with you kids.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think this is semi-missing in terms of its goal of a satanic panic, movie is that they're right. They should not let Black Roses because they are satanic, and B, all the parents are like either bad, but their shit has nothing to do with a reckoning of the town. Like the mayor's just an affable dude who, right. Would like Matt to date his daughter, but he's not going to push it. That's what it comes down to.
His snobby daughter, yeah.
Yeah, his snobby daughter who's like, I'd rather stay at home tonight and put these pictures in an album. You're like, is this your personality? You play tennis and you put pictures in an album? Okay. That's not a character, everyone. She has 2 scenes, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, and she's just like a bitch for no reason.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's nothing else to do in this town. Because you can drive down the middle of any street at any time of day, and it's just fine. You could back into your mother, and no one will notice for at least a day. I love when Matt, the teacher, is roaming the streets, and he's starting to sense after the first concert that the youth have turned because they're just hanging out on street corners and harassing one another. But there's not a sense of general lawlessness because also there's never been any law.
Yeah, there are no laws.
There are no laws. Everyone's just kind of taken a silent agreement that they're not going to run over their mothers until they do. And then they're like, I don't know what to do about it. We all agreed this is a bad thing. Oh, yeah. What a motion picture. I mean, I love that the drummer is the guy from White Fudge, and he's decidedly 10 years older than everyone there. White Fudge, a great satanic heavy metal band.
You mean Vanilla Fudge?
Is it Vanilla Fudge?
Vanilla
I thought
Fudge.
It was White Fudge. Yeah. Okay, same fucking difference.
White Fudge, the name from your short-lived rap career.
Yes, right. Someone come up with a logo for White Fudge. We'll put that with the Black Roses skull on a t-shirt and we'll sell it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say in this movie's favor, and I enjoyed it. For an hour and 20 minutes, I put it. It was a work from home day. I put it on while I was doing my day job stuff, and I didn't. It was not hard to keep up with what was happening.
No.
I will say that as opposed to a lot of movies and TV shows that tried to capitalize on like Satanic Panic and like the punk rock craze, like I direct you back to our wonderful Patreon episode on the Quincy Punk episode.
Mhm.
and the Chips Battle of the Bands episode, which we have not covered yet. We should at some point.
Oh, wait a second. We haven't covered the Battle of Bands.
No,
we
but
covered the one with Donnie Most.
Right, the one
Yeah.
with Moloch, which was also
Moloch and his satanic radio.
right, which was also capitalizing on satanic panic. I will say that because they used, for the most part, actual heavy metal musicians, that Black Rose's music does actually sound like hair metal.
100%.
Yeah, it's I mean, and I never got into hair metal when I was a teenager, but it does sound. They do a good job of sounding like a real hair metal.
They're
group.
real songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are real songs. In fact, the songs are of such a professional level that the rest of the music in the movie legitimately suffers because there's no theme.
Can we talk about this incidental music that they use? Like,
please.
No. It still hasn't beaten the incidental music used in Slugs. I just re-listened to our Slugs episode, and we went long on like the 70s cop show music. The weird bit of music that was also used in the Kids in the Hall sketch. But like they occasionally will use music that kind of sounds like a lighthearted like sitcom background music, and then like something wacky's going on here music, and then like vaguely sinister sounding music, and it's all very random and very, very funny.
Yeah, because there are no themes. It's just a guy on a Casio noodling. So when Matt runs towards a house, suddenly it goes bah, 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 and it never revisit. Like that's not Matt's theme or anything like that. It's just like this is where hero theme should be, but it's never revisited. It's just a guy lazily playing along as the movie happens, improving.
Yeah,
it just feels like improv.
Yeah, it's like when you go to like a screening of like a silent movie. Like,
yes.
I know they around here they do one every year for Nosferatu, and someone will play live music on like an organ. It's like that. Like somebody just had the movie running, and they're just kind of coming up off off the top of their head with music to go with the scene. But like the opening scene when it shows like the teenagers very heavily air quoted, just being normal teens getting ready for school. Like the theme music that's playing, the music that's playing in the background sounds about a note or two off from the fucking Leave It to Beaver theme. To really emphasize, here's just a typical small American small town with these typical teens.
I loved it when the can of paint that Johnny is going to do something with that he never ends up doing, but he gets chased off by Matt, and then it spontaneously combusts. Why? Where did he get a half-filled can of red paint from? Also,
he literally walks off screen, then comes back with the can of paint. He just
pries it open and half of it's gone.
He just spotted it just sitting on the corner.
Yeah, and she's like, "Don't do it! Don't do it! Don't do what? Find the half-used can of red paint we all know is behind the alley." Like, oh my god, what a motion picture! It all feels like they were making it up as they go, and it's not to say that it's unwatchable. It's totally watchable, and I would actually listen to a couple of those songs again. They're okay. But when they come out for that first where they do a shitty song to drive all the parents away, which I was like, this is a fantastic ruse. When it's like, my hometown, it's gotta turn the page. And you're like, oh, Jesus. But whoever that actor is who's playing Damien is trying to sell the shit out of this performance.
Oh, yeah.
He is trying. But I did love that when Matt comes to talk to him in person, he's wearing what appears to be his normal hair. Not just a slick back version. Like it's not teased out. It's just normal length. So he has a stage wig. And then you learn, before he turns into a monster, he pulls his stage wig off and he's bald.
Yeah, I don't get that.
He's blue sunshining this. Have you ever seen Blue Sunshine?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, which it is a movie that I like genuinely. I don't know that there's something about that when people turn crazy and they pull their wigs off and then they kill their children. It's so fucking amazing. Oh God. Excuse me. This wig's getting in the way of my transformation into a hell beast. Oh man. Jesus. You gotta love Black Roses. They just put on a good show, everyone.
It's fun. It's not a good movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it is
a good bad movie.
It's entertaining.
Yes. We didn't even get to the one guy whose daughter brings home a friend to seduce him to death.
Yeah, somebody says she drive hopes him to death or something.
She gets she rides him side saddle, and that's all it takes. Like he's just doing the gin game. He's almost dead.
And then, well, that's what happens when you've got these parents who are supposed to be like parents of 16 and 70-year-olds and 17-year-olds, and they're 65.
Yeah. Or do they just look 65 because it was 1988 and everyone was smoking like a chimney? And they're not lit well. No. I can't tell. Yeah. But worth the watch. I'd watch it with friends. Is my suggestion to everyone. It's a real goof 'em up.
Yeah, this was Zach's pick. He won our You Picked the Movie, and I think this was a really, really fun pick for us.
A very solid pick. I know that I think for 2 years I've kind of slotted one of the rock and roll Satanic Panic movies for Halloween. It's a Trick or Treat with Sammy Kerr is the guy who dies and Snap. What is his name from Family Ties? What was he on Family Ties?
Oh, Skippy. Yeah. Skippy
resurrects him by playing a record backwards. We have show artwork for it. That's how long we've had that in the hopper. I've never pulled the trigger yet, but I think
it's pretty hard to find on streaming at this point.
Yes, I think that has been my big reticence. It's the same thing with Prom Night 3. It's I'd want to cover that, but if the only alternative is to watch the worst version of it on YouTube, should we cover it? Shouldn't it at least be on Tubi? If it's on Tubi, you can at least find it.
Right.
We might have to skip to the much more accessible Prom Night 4, a movie I've never watched.
I was not even aware that it existed.
Yeah, it's not a continuation. It's just a whole other thing it's just a horror movie that takes place on a prom night. Much like the reboot. It's just a horror movie that takes place on a prom night, which I think I dragged Becky to go see. And I was like, come on, it's got Idris Elba in it. How bad can it be? It was bad.
It's very bad.
It's very, very bad. But if you ever want to see Jonathan Schaech make orgasm faces while trying to kill somebody, it's your movie. That just about does it. Thank you, every single one of you, for being a part of our Patreon and helping keep this podcast free for everyone and paying the bills, like Josh Hollis, who does all of our artwork and made an entire cover album for Trick or Treat that we may never use, but we sure want to one day when that becomes available. And thank you so much and our music is supported by you guys. All of that stuff comes out of Patreon, so we really appreciate it. And then should we reveal that Halloween is not over, Gina, when it comes to our commentaries?
What?
Yes, right. Because they've made the insane choice I assume based on quality, that they're going to release Halloween Ends on Peacock. Guess what you guys pay for? Our Peacock is one of the things you have paid for because that was our access to Hannibal for a little while. And so we're going to do a commentary for Halloween Ends. It comes out 2 weeks before the end of the month, so we'll be able to watch it twice. We'll have coalesced our ideas about it. We won't do a special on-air or main feed episode about Halloween Ends. We'll just I think we've got a good one lined up in its place that I think we're going to enjoy doing a lot more. But who knows? Halloween Ends could absolutely be a rockin' piece of work. I mean, what other major studio release can you think of that has a trailer that's in 1 minute and 14 seconds? That has to be good. At least Barbarian had the balls to go, you shouldn't know anything about this movie before you go to see it. And this is like, we're just going to not let you know anything about this movie before you go see it.
Just go in cold because otherwise we're not going to make any money.
We're gonna watch it on Peacock, and it'll be on Peacock if you have it to be available to watch along with us. So one more month of Halloween goodness to make it a full calendar year. And thank you ever so much. We'll see you then for myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.